All right, hey guys, this software that I have only allows 15-minute recordings, so I'm going to record a few of them, and my plan is to upload them to YouTube, and I'll send out a message about that. And just a last bit of review before the AP exam tomorrow, so hopefully you have some time today that you can watch them. I said I would look at our cumulative test and go through the answers because I think that's important. Most people didn't grab their test, but you can still watch this video and it will be a good form of review. So let's just get going, see how much we can get through of the test in the first 15 minutes. A member of Congress votes in favor of a bill as a result of receiving many letters of support for the bill from constituents. Which form of democratic representation best describes this voting decision? The answer is delegate. B, because remember, you need to know the difference between the delegate model of representation and the trustee, as well as the politico, which is not listed here. These are kind of C and D to throw you off. Those are visions of democracy. But a delegate model says that members of Congress will vote based on what their constituents want. Trustee model of representation says they vote the way they want, regardless of what their constituents think. Which of the following rules is most likely to cite the Supreme Court's decision, Tinker v. Des Moines, as a legal precedent in support of the decision? That is, of course, a ruling in favor of students to... Wait. Yeah. Oh, I thought this was a different one. I thought they actually mentioned armbands in the... Thinking of a different question. A ruling in favor of students to print their opinions in a school newspaper, because it's still a First Amendment issue, and obviously students having opinions and wearing black armbands like in Tinker v. Des Moines, form of symbolic speech. The others are, about... B is still a First Amendment ruling, but it's about freedom of religion, which is not involved. C, they're throwing you off with U.S. v. Lopez. D, a health issue. Obviously, the one about freedom of expression is A. 3, which of the following was the direct outcome of the 3/5 compromise? D, the number of representatives in the House of Representatives from slaveholding states increased. That is a somewhat difficult question. Just remember, the 3/5 compromise counted enslaved people as 3/5 of a person for the purposes of counting state populations, and that in turn determined the number of representatives in the House from slaveholding states. The reason they say it increased is that under the Articles of Confederation, right, enslaved people hadn't been counted at all, so they didn't have that same number of that same amount of representation. But under this new Constitution, the number of representatives from slaveholding states would increase. For the case United States v. Lopez struck down the Gun-Free School Zones Act because it, B, Congress exceeded its authority in the use of the Commerce Clause. Remember, United States v. Lopez is about Congress limiting the powers of Congress, especially under the Commerce Clause. You've got this chart here. They're saying between the most liberal Republican and the most conservative Democrat in 1982, 344 members of Congress fit into that category, meaning these are all moderates. The most liberal Republican is not, your normal Republican, not very far right. Your most conservative Democrat is moderate. In between these two moderate positions, everyone is very moderate. In 1982, most of Congress. In 2012, 11 members of Congress, of the House of Representatives, were considered to be moderate. That is a massive decrease. 5, which of the following statements represents a trend supported by the data in the bar graph? That would be C, the number of House members between the most liberal Republican and the most conservative Democrat decreased between 1982 and 2012. Massively, so that's easy, right? 6, based on the data, which of the following is the most likely consequence for the legislative process in Congress? C, an increase in gridlock and failure to compromise on legislation. 5 is reading the chart. just figure out which one is true. 6 is, like in an FRQ, take the information from the chart and apply it to a real life scenario. What's going to happen because of that information? You have to infer some stuff. And because if there's no one's moderate and everybody's extreme, that implies polarization. It implies, what's the word I'm like? Partisanship. And of course, means that leads to an increase in gridlock, Congress not being able to get anything done. A woman is arrested for possessing illegal substances that were obtained after a warrantless search of her home by local police. Which of the following best explains whether the evidence could be used in a criminal trial? B, the exclusionary rule derived from the Fourth Amendment prevents the evidence from being used against the suspect. So note the exclusionary rule is police cannot use illegally obtained evidence in court, and it was incorporated to the states in map v. Ohio in 1961, 62, something, I don't know, 1960s. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and the Seneca Falls Convention. 8, which of the following best captures a portion of the author's argument? C, the government has made women subservient by denying them the right to vote. Just don't have enough time to read through, but obviously you need to do that when you're carefully reading through, when you're on the test, and figure out from the text itself. Let those help you answer these questions. Then there's ones that go beyond that a little bit, but this 9 still is referencing the text, the excerpt itself. The language in the first paragraph of the selection most closely parallels that of which of the following documents? And that is B, the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men and women are created equal. They added women. It is the same line. You just have to know that, right? Remember the Declaration of Independence and how it is different from the Constitution. The preamble of the Constitution is, we the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union, whereas the Declaration of Independence is, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to, dissolve the political bands, blah, blah, blah. And then the most famous part, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men and women are created equal. Well, women was added in the Seneca Falls Convention. Which of the following amendments to the United States Constitution addresses the grievance that a woman is not permitted to exercise her inalienable right to the elective franchise? It's like, knowing what words mean is going to help. This is the easiest question in the world if you just don't be thrown off by the language. Which of the following amendments to the United States Constitution, addresses the grievance, the complaint in the excerpt that a woman is not permitted to exercise her inalienable right to the elective franchise? What is the elective franchise? What is the franchise? It is the right to vote. So which amendment addressed that? The 19th Amendment, women voting. D, don't overthink it. How senators voted on Tom Price for Health and Human Services Secretary. That would be a cabinet position. How does a member of the cabinet become a member of the cabinet? A secretary in the cabinet, the president picks somebody. But cabinet members are subject to congressional approval, that is to say, Senate approval, advice and consent on judges, but also on things like cabinet members. Tom Price had 52 Republicans vote yes for his confirmation to be Health and Human Services Secretary. 45 Democrats voted no, as well as 2 independents. So that's 47 no votes, 1 not voting, 52 to 47. And they throw you right here, 51 votes will ensure confirmation. Which statement best explains the information in the graphic? That would be A, the secretary was confirmed by a party line vote. What does that mean? It just means that he needed a simple majority of 100 senators, 51, to be confirmed, and he had 52 Republicans. All Republicans voted yes, except maybe this person was a Republican, we don't know, but just one not voting. All Republicans voted yes, and clearly all Democrats voted no. He was confirmed by a party line vote. In 2013, a parliamentary procedure was implemented in the Senate that allowed a simple majority vote to end debate on cabinet member confirmations. That's what we're looking at right here. Which of the following best explains how the procedural change relates to the information in the graphic. C, if the procedural change had not occurred, Republican senators would not have been able to immediately invoke cloture of a filibuster. A lot of words going on there. It's very straightforward, though, if you know what any of the words mean. They literally tell you in the question that there was a parliamentary procedure allowed for a simple majority. 51 votes would confirm a cabinet member. You just have to remember that if that procedure had not happened, you would need 60 votes, as always, in the Senate. Because in the Senate, someone can filibuster, and the way you break a filibuster is to invoke cloture. And you need 60 votes to do that. So nothing can get done unless you have 60 votes, unless you have something like this workaround where you just needed a simple majority. All right? So C. 13, which of the following scenarios explains how demographic factors affect voter participation in elections? A, wealthier individuals are more likely to become involved in campaigns because they believe that their actions may influence the candidates. Demographic factors like wealth and where people live and race and religion affect voter participation in, basically the point here is wealthier people have higher political efficacy. They believe they can make a difference, or what they're going to do in politics will make a difference. 14, critics of the winner-take-all aspect of the Electoral College are most likely to make which of the following arguments? D, the winner-take-all system of the Electoral College encourages presidential candidates to focus their time and effort disproportionately on battleground states with larger populations, that smaller states don't get the attention they deserve. Critics of the winner-take-all, so you're looking for the thing that is wrong, and these other ones just aren't the normal arguments against the Electoral College, while D is. In Federalist 78, Hamilton argued that the federal judiciary is beyond the comparison, the weakest of the three departments of power. Which of the following statements represents a reason he gave for this argument? We've talked about this many times. D, it must depend on the executive for enforcement of its decisions. Don't be thrown off by that one doesn't use the terms like we do, like power of the sword and power of the A has them, but it's just wrong, right? It has the power of the sword. No. The executive branch has the power of the sword, the power of enforcement, and D is just saying that. In fact, it doesn't. The Supreme Court, the judiciary, does not have the power of the sword. It must depend on the executive for enforcement of its decisions. D. 16, the Supreme Court ruled in McDonald v. Chicago that a citizen's right to keep and bear arms at home for self-defense is protected from state and federal infringement. Which of the following is most relevant to that decision? That would be selective incorporation, because remember, that's the case that the College Board uses to represent the concept of selective incorporation. That is to say, and you better know this by now, this is Reveiw. If you don't know it, it's good to hear it one last time. When we say selective incorporation, we are talking about the process by which the Supreme Court has made the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, applicable to the states as well, to state governments. State governments can't do those things either that are in the Bill of Rights, and they did it through a selective process, one at a time. The last one being in 2010, McDonald v. Chicago, applying the Second Amendment to the states, the right to bear arms. Party systems in the United States, a little chronological timeline of our different party systems. 17, which of the following statements regarding political parties is true based on the graph? B, the Republican Party initially emerged as an anti-slavery political party, because it says it right there. It's created to oppose slavery. 18, the graphic illustrates which of the following statements about political parties? C, there is an ongoing debate between political parties over the power and scope of the federal government, even as economic and demographic changes have altered party coalitions. If it's just true, always true, don't overthink it. We've talked about how that is the central question of American politics from the founding till today, how much power the federal government has. A political science professor is researching the effects of the 15th and 26th Amendments have had on the American political system. Which of the following is the most likely reason the professor is researching these amendments? B, to study the expansion of voting rights, because you know that the 15th and 26th Amendments both have to do with voting. And so again, we don't overthink it, though. If you didn't know that, it makes it more difficult, but maybe you just know the 15th. Well, go with what you have. 15th is about voting. I'm going to pick voting. All right. we'll do another video.